Commander Qeth'mar stretched his forearms with the satisfaction of someone about to collect an easy paycheck. The bridge of his flagship, Dominion's Edge, hummed with the quiet efficiency of technology that had conquered 17 star systems without breaking a sweat. Well, without breaking whatever passed for sweat on 17 different species anyway. Status report, Navigation Officer Veridian, Qeth'mar commanded, his voice carrying that special tone reserved for asking about the weather on a sunny day. We've achieved optimal orbit around the third planet, sir. The locals call it Earth. Veridian practically giggled the word. Our preliminary scans confirm what intelligence predicted. Stone Age technology, barely capable of reaching their own moon. They still use chemical rockets, Commander. Chemical rockets. The bridge crew erupted in polite laughter. Chemical rockets. What was next? Wooden clubs? Fire sticks? Qeth'mar activated the main display, showing the blue-green marble spinning lazily below them. Cute little planet, really. Shame about the infestation of primitive bipeds crawling all over its surface like primitives. Tactical assessment, Lieutenant Qeth'mar? Laughably simple, sir. Their most advanced weapons appear to be fusion-based explosives. Fusion. Can you believe it? My children play with more sophisticated technology in their nursery pods. Qeth'mar's mandibles clicked with amusement. Total Conquest estimated at, let's be generous, 72 standard hours. Oh, that includes coffee breaks. Coffee breaks? Sorry, sir, I meant nutrient absorption periods. I've been studying their primitive languages. Apparently they consume heated plant matter for stimulation. Barbaric, really. Qeth'mar nodded sagely. The Veridian Empire had perfected the art of galactic conquest through overwhelming technological superiority. These cannons that could split continents, gravity manipulators that could crush entire fleets, and mind control frequencies that made surrender not just inevitable, but enthusiastic. It was almost unfair how easy this job had become. Very well. Open a communication channel to their planetary leadership. Let's get this over with quickly. I promised my clutchmate I'd be home for the spawning season. He straightened his ceremonial battle armor, polished to a mirror shine for absolutely no practical reason except intimidation. Standard Conquest protocol. Demand immediate surrender. Demonstrate our overwhelming power if they refuse, accept their inevitable capitulation, install a puppet government, and move on to the next system. Channel open, Commander. Perfect. Now let's see how fast these humans can grovel. If Commander Qeth'mar had possessed the ability to see into the future, he might have noticed the universe preparing to laugh at him. But he didn't, so he simply smiled with the confidence of someone who had never met a species quite like humanity. The universe, meanwhile, was already chuckling. The holographic transmission flickered to life on the bridge, revealing what Qeth'mar assumed was the human leadership. Two figures sat at a polished table in what appeared to be some sort of primitive conference room. The first was a female with dark hair pulled back in a severe bun, wearing what looked like a military uniform. The second was an older male with graying hair and enough medals on his chest to suggest he'd either seen serious combat or had an unhealthy obsession with shiny objects. Greetings, primitive life forms, Qeth'mar began, his voice booming with the authority of 17 conquered worlds. I am Commander Qeth'mar of the Veridian Empire's Conquest fleet. You will surrender your planet immediately or face annihilation. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement of fact. The two humans looked at each other. Then, inexplicably, the female smiled. Hello there. I'm Captain Maya Torres, United Earth Defense Coalition. This is General Knox Barrett, Joint Chiefs of Staff. She leaned forward with what appeared to be genuine curiosity. I have to say, that's quite an impressive ship you've got there. What kind of propulsion system are you using? Those engine signatures don't match anything in our databases. Qeth'mar blinked all four eyes. Did you not hear the part about surrendering or facing annihilation? Oh, we heard that, General Barrett chimed in, stroking his beard thoughtfully. But before we get to all that unpleasant business, we're really curious about your technology. That hull material, for instance. Our sensors can't get a proper read on it. Some kind of adaptive metal? Self-repairing nanocomposite? What? Qeth'mar's mandibles twitched in confusion. You're supposed to be terrified. 17 species have trembled at the mere mention of the Veridian Empire. You should be begging for mercy, not asking about hull specifications. Captain Torres tilted her head like a curious pet. Well, terror doesn't really help us understand how you managed to achieve faster than light travel. Our physicists have been working on that problem for decades. Is it some kind of space-time manipulation? Wormhole generation? Or are you using something completely different? Like dimensional folding? Lieutenant Qeth'mar leaned over to whisper urgently in Qeth'mar's ear. Sir, this isn't normal. Usually by now they're either surrendering or shooting at us. These humans seem excited? Excited is the right word, General Barrett continued, pulling out what appeared to be a primitive data pad. We've been monitoring your approach for the past 6 hours. Your ships don't show up on gravitational sensors until you're practically on top of us. That suggests some kind of gravity negation technology. Fascinating stuff. Silence. Qeth'mar roared, his patience evaporating faster than water on a desert planet. You will cease this ridiculous line of questioning immediately. I am offering you one final chance to surrender before I demonstrate the crushing power of the Veridian war machine. Captain Torres and General Barrett exchanged another look. This time they both grinned. Oh, you're going to demonstrate your weapons? Torres asked, her eyes lighting up like a child promised a new toy. That's perfect. We've been wondering about your energy output capabilities. Our long-range sensors detected some unusual particle emissions from your weapon arrays. What kind of targeting systems do you use? Barrett added eagerly. Laser guidance? Quantum entanglement? Please tell me it's something more sophisticated than heat-seeking. Navigation Officer Vrel Kun stared at the display in bewilderment. Commander, are they actually looking forward to being attacked? Qeth'mar felt something he hadn't experienced in over a decade of galactic conquest, uncertainty. These humans weren't behaving according to any known pattern. They weren't afraid. They weren't angry. They were curious. And somehow, that was infinitely more unsettling than any weapon they could have pointed at him. This is highly irregular, he muttered, wondering if maybe he should have called in sick today. Commander Qeth'mar rubbed his temples with 2 of his 4 hands. The other 2 were busy gesturing in what his species considered the universal sign for "I can't believe I'm dealing with this nonsense." Fine, he announced, his voice dripping with the patience of someone explaining basic mathematics to a particularly slow child. Since you primitives seem incapable of understanding words, perhaps a demonstration will clarify your situation. He turned to his weapons officer. Target their military installation in the northern continent. Grid reference, let me see the one they call Fort Henderson. Something small and unimportant. We don't want to accidentally vaporize their entire leadership before they surrender. Targeting complete, Commander. Shall I use minimum power settings? Please do. We're dealing with Stone Age technology here. Anything more than a level 2 pulse might crack their planet in half. The Dominion's Edge hummed as its primary weapon array charged. A beautiful lance of crimson energy erupted from the ship's belly, streaking down through the atmosphere like a falling star. It struck Fort Henderson with surgical precision, turning the entire military complex into a crater of perfectly glassed sand within 0.3 seconds. There, Qeth'mar said, dusting off his hands with satisfaction. Now, perhaps you understand the futility of resistance. We have just demonstrated the ability to erase any target on your planet from orbit. Your surrender is inevitable. He expected to see terror in the humans' faces, maybe some weeping, definitely some begging. What he got instead was Captain Torres leaning forward with her eyes absolutely sparkling with excitement. "Oh my stars, that was incredible," she exclaimed, her fingers flying over her primitive data pad. General, did you see those energy readings? The atmospheric ionization patterns were off the charts. General Barrett was nodding vigorously. And the precision. That beam stayed coherent through 12 miles of atmosphere without any visible dispersion. How is that even possible? Within minutes, the human transmission was joined by several additional figures. Qeth'mar watched in growing bewilderment as what appeared to be an entire team of scientists crowded around the communication device, all talking at once. The thermal signature suggests some kind of particle beam weapon. But look at these gravitational readings. There was definite space-time distortion during the firing sequence. Did anyone get a spectrographic analysis of that energy discharge? A new face pushed to the front of the group. A woman with wild brown hair and thick glasses that made her eyes look enormous. "I'm Dr. Elena Vasquez, MIT Physics Department," she announced breathlessly. "Commander Qeth something." "Qeth'mar," he corrected weakly. "Right, Qeth'mar. That weapon of yours just violated about 17 different laws of physics. The energy-to-matter conversion ratio alone should have been impossible without creating a miniature black hole. What kind of exotic matter are you using as ammunition? And don't tell me it's antimatter because the containment requirements would be astronomical." Lieutenant Qeth'mar whispered urgently, "Sir, I think the demonstration might have backfired." "How so?" Qeth'mar whispered back, though he was beginning to suspect he already knew. "Well, instead of terrifying them, we appear to have excited them?" Dr. Vasquez was still talking, her hands waving enthusiastically. "The beam coherence suggests you're using some kind of quantum field manipulation, but the energy output indicates fusion-level reactions happening at the quantum scale. That's theoretically impossible unless, oh my goodness, are you somehow converting vacuum energy directly into directed particles? That's classified military technology." Qeth'mar sputtered. "Of course it is, but the principles behind it, the applications for peaceful energy generation would be limitless. You could solve every energy crisis in the galaxy." Dr. Vasquez's eyes were practically glowing now. "Have you considered the humanitarian applications? Medical devices? Industrial manufacturing? The possibilities are endless." General Barrett chimed in again. "Dr. Vasquez raises an excellent point. Commander, would you be willing to share your technical specifications in exchange for, say, not immediately surrendering?" "Not surrendering." Qeth'mar's voice cracked like a teenager asking someone to prom. But I just demonstrated our overwhelming superiority. I destroyed an entire military base." Captain Torres shrugged. "Oh, that? Fort Henderson was scheduled for demolition anyway. You just saved us about 6 months of paperwork and explosives costs. We should probably thank you." Navigation Officer Vrel Kun stared at his instruments in confusion. "Commander, I'm reading massive human military mobilization across the planet, but they're not taking defensive positions. They're all heading toward the crater we just made. To study it," Dr. Vasquez confirmed cheerfully. "We've got about 300 scientists en route with every scanning device we can get our hands on. This is the most exciting thing to happen to physics since the discovery of quantum mechanics." Qeth'mar felt a headache coming on. This was definitely not going according to the manual. 3 days later, Commander Qeth'mar was seriously considering early retirement. What should have been a simple planetary conquest had turned into the most bizarre military campaign in Veridian history. The humans weren't just refusing to surrender. They were treating the entire invasion like some sort of educational field trip. "Status report," he demanded, though he wasn't sure he wanted to hear it. Tactical Officer Qeth'mar consulted her instruments with the expression of someone reading their own obituary. "Well, sir, the good news is that our electromagnetic pulse weapons successfully disabled their primary power grid across 3 major cities. And the bad news? They had backup power online within 47 minutes. Not only that, but their engineers appear to have reverse-engineered our EMP frequency and created some kind of improvement." She paused, clearly struggling with the concept. "Sir, They're now generating more efficient electrical power than they were before we attacked them. Qeth'mar's left eye began to twitch. How is that possible? Apparently, something called Dr. Jennifer Walsh from Caltech analyzed the electromagnetic patterns and figured out how to build what she called quantum resonance generators. I don't pretend to understand it, sir, but their power output has increased by 300%. 300%? Yes, sir. They sent us a thank you note. The communications officer Veridian raised a tentative hand. Commander, we're receiving another transmission from the human leadership. Put them through, Qeth'mar sighed, wondering if it was too late to transfer to the accounting division. Captain Torres appeared on screen, but she wasn't alone. Behind her, Qeth'mar could see what appeared to be a massive construction project. Humans in hard hats were assembling something that looked suspiciously familiar. Hello again, Commander. Hope you're having a lovely day up there. We wanted to show you something exciting. Torres stepped aside to reveal a device that made Qeth'mar's blood freeze in his veins. We've been working around the clock, and we think we've successfully recreated your gravity manipulation technology. That's impossible, Qeth'mar whispered. It took our greatest scientists 4 centuries to develop gravity control. Dr. Elena Vasquez popped into view, her hair even wilder than before. Oh, it was tricky at first. But once we figured out you were using localized space-time curvature through controlled graviton emission, the rest was just engineering. We had to improvise with some Earth materials. But titanium steel composite works almost as well as whatever exotic metals you're using. General Barrett joined the conversation, looking insufferably pleased with himself. The really clever part was when our team realized we could improve on your design. See, your gravity generators appear to be single-directional. Yours can create multi-vector gravitational fields. Multi-vector? Lieutenant Thexara leaned over Qeth'mar's shoulder. Sir, that's theoretically impossible. The computational requirements alone would require a planet-sized quantum computer. Oh, that. Dr. Vasquez laughed. We just linked about 50,000 gaming computers together. Turns out all those kids playing video games created the perfect distributed processing network. Who knew? Qeth'mar felt something inside his brain snap. You used gaming computers to solve quantum gravitational mechanics? Well, gaming computers and a pizza delivery algorithm, Dr. Vasquez corrected. The pizza algorithm was actually the breakthrough. It's really good at optimizing multiple delivery routes simultaneously, which is basically the same mathematical problem as managing gravitational vectors. They weaponized pizza delivery, Veridian muttered in horrified fascination. Captain Torres continued cheerfully, we've also been working on your shield technology. Thanks for those proton torpedo attacks yesterday. By the way, our materials science team learned so much from analyzing the impact patterns. We've developed something we're calling adaptive deflector arrays. They actually get stronger the more you shoot at them. Sir, Tactical Officer Thexara's voice was barely above a whisper. I'm detecting massive energy signatures from the planet's surface. Whatever they've built down there, it's generating power levels comparable to our main reactor. Comparable to our reactor? But that's a controlled fusion antimatter hybrid system. Yes, sir. Theirs appears to be better. On screen, General Barrett was talking to someone off camera. What's that? Oh, excellent. Commander Qeth'mar, I have more good news. Our engineering teams have successfully replicated your faster-than-light communication system. We're already in contact with 3 nearby star systems. Lovely neighbors you have, by the way. Very friendly. You contacted other star systems? Qeth'mar's voice climbed several octaves. But that technology is restricted. It's classified at the highest levels of imperial security. Well, it was pretty obvious once we understood the quantum entanglement principles, Dr. Vasquez said dismissively. Basic particle physics, really. Although I have to say, your encryption protocols were charmingly primitive. We cracked them in about 6 hours. 6 hours? A group of teenagers actually solved it during their lunch break. They thought it was some kind of online puzzle game. Navigation Officer Vrelkun slowly turned to stare at his commander. "Sir, I think we might be in trouble." Qeth'mar looked at the screen, where the humans were cheerfully waving goodbye while what appeared to be their own version of a Veridian battlecruiser took shape in the background. "Trouble?" he repeated faintly. "Vrelkun, I think trouble might be the understatement of the millennium." Commander Qeth'mar was in the middle of what his species called a strategic contemplation period, which roughly translated to hiding in his quarters and questioning every life choice that had led him to this moment, when the alarms started screaming. "Commander, to the bridge. Emergency status." Lieutenant Qeth'mar's voice crackled through the intercom with the particular panic reserved for career-ending disasters. Qeth'mar stumbled onto the bridge to find his crew staring at the tactical display like it had grown tentacles and started singing opera. Which, given the current circumstances, wouldn't have surprised him. "Report," he barked, though his voice lacked its usual authority. Hard to sound commanding when you'd spent the last week being systematically outmaneuvered by a species that still used wheeled vehicles for transportation. "Sir, we have a problem," Qeth'mar announced, which was roughly equivalent to saying water was wet. "Multiple human vessels have just appeared on our sensors. They're using some kind of stealth technology we've never seen before." "Stealth technology? But they're primitives. How could they possibly?" "Sir," Navigation Officer Vrelkun interrupted, his voice tight with something approaching hysteria, "I don't think they were ever primitives." The main display shifted to show a formation of sleek ships rising from Earth's atmosphere. They looked nothing like the crude chemical rockets the humans had been using. These vessels were elegant, deadly, and covered in energy signatures that made Qeth'mar's advanced sensors practically weep with confusion. "Incoming transmission," Communications Officer Zeftal announced, though she sounded like she'd rather be announcing her own funeral. The screen flickered to reveal a new human face. This one belonged to a man with steel-gray hair, wearing what appeared to be a military uniform that looked far more sophisticated than anything they'd seen before. His expression held the cold confidence of someone who knew exactly how this conversation was going to end. "Commander Qeth'mar, I'm Major Jake Morrison, Commander of Earth's Deep Space Defense Force. I think it's time we had an honest conversation." "Deep Space Defense Force?" Qeth'mar sputtered. "But your intelligence report said you barely had a space program." Major Morrison's smile was sharp enough to cut through hull plating. "Our intelligence reports said a lot of things, didn't they?" "Tell me, Commander, in all your years of conquest, how many species have you encountered that deliberately made themselves appear weaker than they actually were?" The question hit Qeth'mar like a gravity mine to the face. You were pretending?" "Oh, we were never pretending to be less intelligent," Morrison clarified, his tone conversational but with an edge that could freeze plasma. "We just never mentioned that we'd been monitoring your empire's expansion for the past 15 years. Fascinating technology you've developed. We learned so much from your previous conquests." "Previous conquests? But how could you possibly know about the Zeltharian system? The Mokrian colonies? The complete subjugation of the Vrex homeworld?" Morrison's expression never changed. "We've been watching, Commander. Learning. Preparing." Tactical Officer Qeth'mar's voice cracked like thin ice. "Sir, I'm reading weapons signatures from the human vessels. They're more advanced than ours." "More advanced?" Qeth'mar felt his universe tilting sideways. "But that's impossible." Major Morrison leaned forward slightly. "You know what's interesting about humans, Commander? We have this peculiar trait called pattern recognition. When we see something that works, we don't just copy it. We improve it. Take your gravity manipulation technology, for instance." One of the human ships suddenly vanished from the tactical display, only to reappear directly behind Qeth'mar's flagship. Impossible. No ship could move that fast without generating massive gravitational distortions. "How did you Qeth'mar began?" "Micro-wormhole generation," Morrison explained cheerfully. "Your gravity tech gave us the foundation, But we realized you could fold space-time in ways you never imagined. Instantaneous travel within a star system. No energy signatures, no detectable emissions. Quite handy for tactical positioning. Lieutenant Qeth'mar was frantically working her console. Commander, I'm detecting human vessels on all sides of our formation. They're using some kind of multi-dimensional positioning system. Sir, they've completely surrounded the entire fleet without us detecting their approach. Surrounded? Qeth'mar's voice rose to a pitch that would have embarrassed a frightened child. But we have 37 ships. How could they possibly? 37 ships using predictable formation patterns, Morrison interrupted. You know, for a species that's conquered 17 star systems, your tactical maneuvers are remarkably limited. Always the same approach vectors, always the same weapon deployment sequences. You've been using the identical playbook for decades. The truth crashed over Qeth'mar like a collapsing star. You studied our tactics. Every battle, every conquest, every strategic decision. We had 15 years to analyze your methods, Commander. 15 years to design countermeasures for every weapon in your arsenal. 15 years to prepare for this exact moment. Navigation Officer Vrel Kun stared at his instruments in growing horror. Sir, the human ships are charging weapons. But these energy signatures, they're using our own technology against us, but the power output it's impossible. They're generating more firepower than our entire fleet combined. Major Morrison's expression finally shifted to something resembling sympathy. Here's the thing about humans, Commander. We're really good at taking something that already exists and making it better. Your particle beam weapons? We figured out how to focus them through quantum tunneling. Your shield technology? We added adaptive frequency modulation. Your faster-than-light engines? We improved the efficiency by 400%. This is insane, Qeth'mar whispered. You're supposed to be a primitive species. Primitive? Morrison laughed, and the sound held no humor whatsoever. Commander, we've been spacefaring for decades. We've had quantum computers for years. We've been manipulating genetics since before your species discovered fire. The only thing we lacked was a teacher. He leaned back in his chair with the satisfaction of someone revealing the punchline to a very long, very elaborate joke. Thank you for the education, Commander. Class is now dismissed. The bridge of the Dominion's edge had devolved into what could charitably be called organized chaos and more accurately described as 17 different species worth of panic happening simultaneously. Retreat. All ships retreat. Commander Qeth'mar screamed into his communications array, his voice cracking like a teenager trying to order pizza while the restaurant was on fire. Emergency jump to hyperspace. Now. Sir, we can't. Navigation Officer Vrel Kun's hands were flying over his controls with the desperate energy of someone trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while falling off a cliff. The humans have somehow generated a localized space-time distortion field. Our jump drives are completely offline. They can disable hyperspace? Lieutenant Qeth'mar's voice reached frequencies that only small mammals should be able to hear. That's not possible. The Veridian Empire has the most advanced faster-than-light technology in the galaxy. Tactical Officer Zeftal corrected miserably. We had the most advanced technology. Past tense. The humans just proved they can trap an entire fleet in normal space using what appears to be weaponized mathematics. On the main display, Major Morrison's face appeared again, but this time he wasn't alone. Captain Torres and General Barrett flanked him, along with Dr. Vasquez, who was practically vibrating with excitement. Commander Qeth'mar, Morrison said, his tone now carrying the patient authority of a teacher addressing a particularly slow student, your surrender is inevitable. However, unlike your usual approach to conquest, we're prepared to offer terms. Terms? Qeth'mar clutched his command chair like a life preserver. What kind of terms? Well, Captain Torres stepped forward. First, you'll be leaving our system. Immediately. Second, you'll be transmitting a full confession of your attempted invasion to every species in your empire. Third, you'll be providing us with complete technical specifications for all your weapons, ships, and technology. And in exchange? General Barrett's smile was sharper than a surgical laser. In exchange, we won't demonstrate what we can do with the improvements we've made to your weapon systems. Trust me, Commander, you don't want that demonstration. Dr. Vasquez couldn't contain herself any longer. Oh, but we should show them the gravitational torpedo. It's so elegant. We took their gravity manipulation technology and created a weapon that can collapse a ship into a singularity from the inside out. The physics are absolutely beautiful. Dr. Vasquez, Morrison said gently, you're terrifying them. Oh, she looked genuinely apologetic. Sorry, I get excited about theoretical physics applications. Commander Qeth'mar felt what remained of his dignity crumble like a sandcastle in a tsunami. We accept your terms. Excellent. Torres clapped her hands together. Oh, and Commander? When you transmit that warning to other species, make sure you mention that Earth is now officially under the protection of the Terran Defense Coalition. Anyone who wants to visit for peaceful purposes is welcome. Anyone who comes with hostile intentions will be educated. The same way we educated you, Morrison added helpfully. 30 minutes later, the Veridian fleet limped away from Earth's solar system, their hyperspace drives finally released from the human-generated space-time prison. Commander Qeth'mar sat in his command chair, composing what would undoubtedly be the most humiliating military report in galactic history. All Veridian Empire vessels and allied species, he began, his voice flat with defeat. This is Commander Qeth'mar, formerly of the Conquest fleet. I am transmitting a code red warning regarding the third planet of the Sol system. Under no circumstances should any military force approach this world. The species known as humans are not, repeat not, a primitive civilization. They are educational. He paused, watching Earth shrink in his rear display. Also, he added, his voice breaking slightly, they apparently want to thank us for the technology donation. They've sent us a gift basket. Navigation Officer Vrel Kun looked up from his station. What kind of gift basket, sir? Cookies, Qeth'mar replied hollowly. They baked us cookies. And somehow, that was the most terrifying thing of all.